Right, let's start today's session. This is the second session of .NET. In the last session, we just discussed what is .NET, what subjects I'm going to teach in this .NET basic package, and what is .NET framework, what is Visual Studio. We were discussing in the last session, just theoretical part. Okay, and today we'll see .NET program code execution process and also .NET framework components. What are the important components are there in .NET framework? We'll see here. So let's check out first .NET code execution process. So as I said that in the last session, in this basic .NET package, I'm going to cover these subjects: C#.NET as well as ASP.NET, SQL Server, and along with ADO.NET. Yes, these are the subjects I'm going to cover. The duration of this course is 2.5 months, and every day session recording I'm going to send to your Google Drive along with soft copy of material. And initially from the next week onwards, first 4 days, Monday to Thursday, C#.NET sessions, and every Friday and Saturday SQL Server sessions. Once I complete C# with SQL, and we'll go for ASP.NET separately. C#.NET is a programming language. So to become a good programmer in .NET, at least you should have a knowledge on one programming language. That is C#.NET I'm choosing here. So C#.NET is most powerful programming language. That's what I recommend to learn C#.NET. But as I said that in the last session, .NET supports around 60 plus languages. In that, 9 are designed by Microsoft, like C#.NET, VB.NET, J#, F#, Windows, PowerShell, Iron, Ruby. So these are all .NET languages only, completely designed by Microsoft. But in that, C# is the most popular language. It is completely purely object-oriented programming language. That's what I recommend to learn C#.NET only. And ASP.NET stands for Active Server Page, and ASP stands for Active Server Page. It is not a programming language. It is a web technology or server-side technology. So SQL Server is for database design, where we can store client information or end user information. So that is database storage purpose. We use SQL Server concept, SQL Server. Okay, SQL Server is used to create databases and design databases where we can store customer information or end user information. This is C#.NET. Sorry, SQL Server. ADO.NET is a communication interface. If you want to provide communication from front-end application to database like SQL Server, then ADO.NET is required. ADO.NET stands for ActiveX Data Object. ActiveX Data Object. It is a native driver software. So these subjects I'm going to cover. Okay. For new joinees, just I explained this. Already we discussed in the last session. These are all details. Okay. But those who missed the last session, I strongly recommend to watch my previous video visiting DURGASOFT YouTube channel. So they have uploaded the first recording video of my .NET course. So you can go to DURGASOFT YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and type DURGASOFT. There is a playlist, so you can check my video over there. If you want, I'll show you. Just you can go to YouTube. You can search YouTube, and here DURGASOFT you can type it. Okay, so just you can type it DURGASOFT here, DURGASOFT, DURGASOFT. So just you can type DURGASOFT, and you'll be able to get Durga software solutions. And there is a videos uploaded here. Now you can see recent videos. So .NET C# plus ASP plus SQL Server demo 1. So 10 hours ago they have uploaded. You can watch this video, those who are new to this session. This is the first video. And second video, and like 4 or 5 videos they'll upload. You can check it once. And today we'll see code execution process. Okay, code execution process. Code execution process in .NET. Code execution process in .NET. So if you write code in C#.NET programming language or any other programming language, but how the code is going to be executed. So let me show you through diagrammatic representation. Generally, when it comes to C++, when we write code and when we go for execution, the code will compiled once by respective language compiler. But when it comes to C#.NET and especially .NET, compilation will take place twice. Now you can see first compilation and second compilation. Here SSC means source code, sir. I have just given abbreviation. SSC means source code. Whatever we type the code using C#.NET or any other language of .NET in your computer, in your Visual Studio environment, that is called source code. And generally, source code can be compiled by respective language compiler. For example, if I write code using C#.NET, C#.NET source code is compiled by C# language compiler. Every programming language is having its own language compiler. Every programming language is having its own language compiler. And after successful compilation, and this language compiler will produce a special code that is called MSIL code. MSIL code in the sense Microsoft Intermediate Language Code, or CIL means Common Intermediate Language Code, or IL means Intermediate Language Code. MSIL or CIL or IL. This is total Microsoft Intermediate Language Code. This is not a binary format. You know, our computer will understand only binary format like bytecode or system code or mission understandable code, but this is still in English language format. So this is first compilation. Source code is compiled by respective language compiler and generate or produce MSL code. Microsoft Intermediate Language or Common Intermediate Language or Intermediate Language. And in second compilation, this MSL code can be transferred to CLR. CLR is the main component. How Java programmers will have JVM, like Java Virtual Machine, and same here in .NET, we have a component called CLR, Common Language Runtime. This common language runtime is used to provide execution environment to the .NET applications. Yes, execution environment or runtime environment to the .NET applications. That is CLR. And this in second compilation, this MSL code can be transferred to CLR. Again, under the CLR, there is a compiler called JIT compiler, just-in-time compiler. This is the second compilation. This just-in-time compiler will compile the code once again. MSL code only will compile because any required methods need to be cross-verified. So that will be done by JIT compiler. Once JIT compilation successfully compiled and the code is executed by CLR, and after completion of execution, and CLR will produce a native code. Native code means it is local to the operating system, and this is also called as bytecode or system understandable code. And this code can be transferred to operating system for further process. Okay, this code can be transferred to operating system for further process. This is native code only. And now you can see when we write .NET programs, no matter what programming language you choose, like C#, VB, J#, F#, and so on. But this is going to happen internally. But generally, when we write program in C#.NET language, and when we press F5 shortcut key from your keyboard, immediately you will get compilation and execution. But behind the scenes, this code, this process is going to happen. Source code is compiled by respective language compiler and it produces MSL code. MSL code is transferred to CLR. Again, under the CLR, there is a JIT compiler. This JIT compiler will compile this MSL code, and after that, it produces native code once the code is executed by CLR. And native code can be transferred to operating system for further process. And always, second compilation is faster than first compilation, because normal language compiler, at the time of compilation, maximum code can be compiled by respective language compiler only minimum code compiled by just-in-time compiler with CLR. So this is code execution process. Here, one thing you have to remember, JIT compiler is the faster rate compiler than normal language compilation, because minimum code only will be compiled here. And two compilations takes place here in .NET program executions. But as a programmer, you must and should aware of that this flow, how the code will be executed when we start compilation or when we run your program. This is happening internally. Okay. Yes. As I said in the last session, .NET is a framework tool which supports around 60 plus languages. And what is .NET framework? I said .NET framework is nothing but collection of class libraries. .NET framework is nothing but collection of class libraries. Without .NET framework, there is no .NET. That means if you don't have .NET framework software in your computer, we cannot able to write .NET programs. Yes, it's not possible. So .NET framework is mandatory for .NET application development. And using .NET framework, we can able to run our code only Windows operating system. Means if you develop any logic using .NET framework, so that will execute only Windows operating system. That means our code is only platform dependent. It cannot run on other platforms like Mac OS, Unix, Linux, Solaris, and so on. And when we use .NET framework software, we can only run our .NET code with Windows operating system. But there is a .NET Core is there. .NET Core framework is there. Yes. So as I said in the last session, both I will discuss. When it comes to ASP.NET, I'll discuss ASP.NET core concepts only. ASP.NET Core instead of ASP.NET with the .NET framework. Okay. So there you will be see the differences, how to create ASP.NET web applications using .NET framework as well as using .NET Core platform. But when it comes to C#.NET, code is common. There is no much more differences, only platform dependent or platform independent. Do you want to write a C#.NET script or C#.NET code which is able to run on any platform? Then go for .NET Core option is there, framework instead of framework. If you want to execute your .NET code only on Windows operating system, select a .NET framework. But framework is compulsory. Either it is .NET framework or .NET Core also. Both frameworks are compulsory. Without framework, we cannot able to develop any logic. But I can see as soon as when we install Visual Studio 2022, in the last session I have shown, just go to Google, type download Visual Studio 2022. So you'll be able to get Visual Studio 2022 software from official website, Microsoft.com. And from there, you can download it and install it. Once you install Visual Studio, always it integrated with the .NET Framework 4.8 as well as .NET Core also there. While starting practical implementation, I'll clearly discuss with the .NET Framework and .NET Core also. But I'm saying that .NET Framework is having two major components internally. .NET Framework components here. Components. What are the two components? Yes, I'll tell you what are the major components here. One is BCL, base class library, we can call it as base class libraries. Yes, this is BCL, base class libraries, base class libraries. And next one is CLR. CLR means Common Language Runtime. Common Language Runtime. This is main components two. This base class library is also called as FCL. That means Framework Class Library. Framework Class Library. Framework Class Libraries. Yes, Framework Class Libraries. Base class libraries or Framework Class Libraries here. So BCL, base class libraries, FCL, framework class libraries. So both are same. And these two components gets installed automatically when we install .NET Framework software. And without a .NET Framework, there is no .NET. Why? Because if you don't install .NET Framework software, and these two components not get installed. If you don't have these two components, you cannot write your .NET application code. You cannot execute your .NET application code. But as a .NET programmer, both are required for us. Writing the code is important. Execution of our code is important. Both are required. But I'm saying that this is base class libraries, whereas first component is there, no? So using this first component, we can write .NET code. Using the second component, we can execute or run your .NET code. So execution of .NET code is important. Writing .NET code is also important. Both are important. So that's what here BCL base class library or FCL framework class library. First, we'll talk about this one only, because without this, we cannot write .NET programs even. So base class libraries or framework class libraries are just like header files in C, C++ or packages in Java. How the programmers will use header files in C, C++ programming language and packages concept in Java. Same in .NET, we use what? Base class libraries. These are also called as namespaces. Terminology is different, but purpose is same. So in C, C++ programming point of view, programmers will use like header files on top of the program before writing the code. How they'll use header files like hash include stdioh standard input and output. Okay, so same like in .NET. So we have to include namespaces. But in Java point of view, they'll use packages before writing the script. But when it comes to Java and C, C++ languages, programmer has to give the header file section and as well as packages. They have to include. But when it comes to .NET, according to application, so based on the application, basic libraries or basic namespaces, by default it will come. You need not include. Okay, that is the advantage of .NET here. So built-in libraries or built-in namespaces will come by default. Depends on your selection of application. Okay, so as I said, console applications, Windows Forms application, ASP.NET web applications we can develop. Okay, so based on the application type what you selected, based on that libraries or namespaces will come by default. So you need not to import as a programmer in .NET especially. In case your existing libraries or existing namespaces do not meet your application requirement, then we have to explicitly import it. So how to import, we'll discuss in coding part. So I'm saying that base class libraries are similar to header files in C, C++, packages in Java concept. Without base class libraries, we cannot write .NET programming. These also called as namespace. As soon as when we install .NET Framework software, these base class libraries gets installed automatically. So if you want to see the base class libraries in your computer location after installation of .NET Framework software, you have to go to location. This is the physical location of base class library. Physical location of BCL, base class library. How to check whether base class libraries are located in our computer or not after installing .NET Framework. This is so root to drive, root to drive. Then after that OS folder means operating system folder. Assembly folder is there. Assembly means group of class libraries. Root drive is obviously C drive. Operating system folder is Windows, and folder name is called assembly folder here. Assembly here. So C drive, Windows, assembly here. This is. Now let's coming to the let's check out quickly in my computer. I have installed already .NET Framework software. So now you can see here C drive. Double click on C drive. There is a Windows folder, operating system folder. Double click on it, and after that there is a folder called assembly folder. Double click over there, and GSE MSIL is there here. You can see MSIL, Microsoft Intermediate Language. As soon as when we install Visual Studio with the .NET Framework 4.8, all these libraries gets installed. Using these libraries only, we can able to develop .NET applications. If you don't get these libraries in your computer, and you cannot able to write your .NET script. So these are important to us. But for every application, so you can create a console application, Windows Forms, ASP.NET web application, no matter what type of application you want, you can create it. But every application, for every application, base class libraries is in the form of two different ways. One is .exe, that is executable file. Next one is DLL. DLL stands for Dynamic Link Library. DLL stands for Dynamic Link Library here. .exe is nothing but executable file. These two files gets created for every application internally. Executable file means what, sir? You know that .exe is an executable file. When we double click on .exe, directly our application will be run because it's having entry point. Entry point means static void main method. Yes, when we write coding part, if that file is having entry point like static void main method, that will create executable file, means directly it will execute. It is having entry point, it will run individually. But DLL means what? Dynamic link library. Okay, yes, DLL. Yes, after compilation, automatically DLL file will be created. That DLL file we can able to reuse that. Yes, we use that. Reusability purpose we use this. Dynamic link library means what? At the time of execution, okay, this DLL file will support to .exe only. That's what it is, not a main file. DLL file is a supportive file. It don't have any entry point. DLL file will not run directly. It will not execute because it don't have an entry point. Entry point means main method. .exe contains main method. It will directly run. But while executing .exe, DLL file is supportive file. If it is required to support to the .exe, then DLL file will support. Dynamic means runtime. Link means just required libraries will add it to the .exe file. It will support by adding some libraries to .exe. This is DLL file. It is a supportive file. It don't have any entry point, that is static void main method. Generally, DLL is used for reusability. Reusability means in reality what will happen while developing application code, whenever you create a DLL file, your logic, so that DLL file we can attach into similar kind of applications with modification, without modification. That coding concept, total code will be available to other application also. So as a programmer, you need not to write repeatedly code again and again, because already we have implemented logic with DLL file. That DLL file we can add as a reference to your target application. Your target application will use the already available code. No need to repeatedly write. This concept I'll show you with clear explanation, practical implementation, how to create a DLL file, how to reuse that DLL file into other application, how we can add a reference to the DLL file, we'll discuss. Okay, yes. So dynamic link library. So it is not a CLR. DLL will be in CLR. No, it is a framework library. It is a form of library only. CLR is separate. CLR is the next component, that is CLR will provide execution environment. While executing, then these libraries will help to .exe. So that is DLL file will be created at the time of compilation. At the time of runtime, this DLL will help to .exe file only. So it is not inside the CLR. Okay, it will support, it will give that DLL, dynamic link library. It is supportive file, it don't have any main method also. Okay, yes, we have to add to the application, where at that before going to run your application, we have to attach the DLL file. At the time of runtime, CLR will consider this DLL request also. This DLL file code also will execute. It doesn't mean that DLL should be always in CLR. Before going to execute only, we have to add DLL file to our application, and CLR can recognize the DLL. Okay, DLL code will support to, with the help of DLL code only, your application will be processed. That is actual reason. These two under comes into base class library or framework class libraries. And without Well, the CLR is same like JVM only, yes. But in when it comes to .NET, we can call it as CLR, Common Language Runtime. In Java point of view, JVM, Java Virtual Machine, same. That's what I'm just comparing that. Java programmers, how they'll use JVM, same here CLR architecture is there, Common Language Runtime. And this is first component, base class libraries. I'm concluding this component. Without base class libraries, we cannot write our .NET code. So after completion of .NET code, okay, after writing your .NET code, your code need to be executed. Yes or no? So for execution purpose, we use what? CLR, Common Language Runtime. In the name itself, the definition is there. Common Language Runtime means what? This is the main component. It is used to provide execution environment for .NET applications, and it will provide runtime environment for all .NET programming languages which are supported to .NET. So common language runtime, it will provide runtime environment or execution environment to all common languages which are support to .NET. That's what common language runtime, we can say that, CLR. And CLR is categorized into 4 subcomponents internally. So one is CLS, Common Language Specification, Common Language, Common Language Specification, Common Language Specification, CLS. Next one is CTS, Common Type System, Common Type System here, Common Type System, or it also called as Data Type System, we can say that. Data Type System, Data Type System. And next one is GC, Garbage Collector here, Garbage Collector. Garbage collector will play the role while doing automatic memory management. Garbage collector it is. Next one is JIT, just-in-time compiler. Just-in-time compiler it is, JIT. So these are the 4 subcomponents associated with main component called CLR. That means at the time of .NET program execution under CLR, these subcomponents will support to CLR. Each and every subcomponent is having its own specific role. It will play the role. So for example, we'll talk about CLS, Common Language Specification. Common Language Specification means what? You know, .NET supports around 60 plus languages. In that, 9 are designed by Microsoft. In the last session, I just discussed clearly. And then according to your requirement, as a programmer, you may choose C#.NET. As a programmer, my requirement is VB.NET. If I choose VB.NET, or some other programmers will choose J#.NET, F#.NET. But we are all selecting different languages to write .NET application code. But every programming language is having its own syntactical rules and regulations. Yes, that's for sure. C#.NET syntactical rules and regulations are different. VB.NET syntactical rules and regulations are different. At the same time, like J#, F#, different languages, they're having different syntactical rules and regulations. One programming language cannot understand other programming language syntactical rules and regulations. So every programming language is having its own rules and regulations, but one programming language cannot understand other programming language syntactical rules and regulations. So here CLR should understand all programming language syntactical rules and regulations, because CLR is the main component which is responsible to provide runtime or execution environment for all .NET programming languages. But that's what here CLR cannot understand different programming language rules and regulations. CLR is having its own syntactical rules and regulations. But at the time of execution, CLS is a subcomponent of CLR. This subcomponent will take responsible to convert all programming languages syntactical rules and regulations into CLR understandable format at the time of execution. And similarly, data type system also, CTS component is there, common type system, data type system. Every programming language is having its own data type system. So data types mostly common, like integer, float, bool, these are common, but declaration and syntactical wise, this is different. Suppose if we take VB.NET, so declaration of data types are different, and C#.NET declaration of data types are different. So data types also different for different languages. One programming language data type system cannot understand other language data type system. Same CLR also is having its own data type system format. Who should take responsible to convert all programming language data type system into CLR data type system format? CTS, common type system. So data type system can be of two types, like value type and reference type. I'll talk about this value type and reference type in detail when it comes to boxing and unboxing concept in C#.NET. Value type means the value directly which store into the memory location, that is called value type. Reference type means the value which is not stored directly into the memory location, rather than it refer other memory location, that is called reference type. So value type will work with stack mechanism, reference type will work with heap mechanism. For value type, memory will be allotted at compilation time. For reference type, memory will be allotted at runtime only. I'll talk about this value type and reference type in detail later. So this is common type system. Data type system is different for different languages. Syntactical rules and regulations also different for different languages. All syntactical rules and regulations will be converted into CLR understandable format by CLS. All programming language data type system will be converted into CLR data type system format. Who will do that? CTS. Now coming to the garbage collector, it is important component. So nowadays every programming language is having built-in garbage collector. So that's the reason as a programmer we are not going to take memory management code. We need not to write any explicit logic for memory management, because internally at the time of program execution, memory management will done by garbage collector itself. So garbage collector is used to provide automatic memory management. Automatic memory management. Imagine that if there is no garbage collector, so as a programmer, you must and should write explicit logic code for automatic memory management purpose. So memory management is important. Okay. So if you not manage memory, so your application will run out of the memory. So that will be problem. So that's what here garbage collector is built-in garbage collector is there under the CLR. While executing your code, garbage collector will take care memory management, automatic memory management. Automatic memory management is nothing but it is the process of dividing your application objects into two categories. One is idled objects, that means garbage objects, which is not useful to run our application. And next one is useful objects. For useful objects, memory will be allotted, and for unuseful objects like garbage objects, that will be destroyed. For destroy the objects purpose, garbage collector will call internally destructor. Destructor is used to perform cleanup activities. After completion of cleanup activities by destructor, then garbage collector will destroy the objects, which is not useful to run our application. Because every time you should clean up. You should clean up means new objects purpose we need to make memory free. Then only it will be run. Otherwise, it will be your application will down with memory issues. So to avoid that, garbage collector is there. So that's what in our .NET programming explicitly we will not write any logic for memory management, because garbage collector will take care of that. So automatic memory management is simple process to divide the objects into two categories. One is garbage objects, which is not useful, and another one is useful objects to run the applications that objects are required. For useful objects purpose, memory allotment, and the not useful objects purpose, memory can be deallocation. So this is process of garbage collector exactly. If there is no garbage collector, memory allocation, deallocation purpose, we need to write explicit code. That is very typical, and we have that will be make burden onto the programmer. So garbage collector will manage memory. You need not to worry about memory management code. And just-in-time compiler also is associated with CLR. Just now we discussed the diagrammatic representation through JIT compiler always associated with CLR. MSL code can be compiled with a JIT compiler. and any issues are there, furtherly it will check. And if there is no issues while compiling with the JIT compiler, the code will be executed by CLR. JIT compiler is always second compilation of .NET program execution. It will be faster than normal language compiler. So this CLR is used to provide runtime or execution environment for .NET applications. Without CLR, we cannot execute our code. Without base class libraries, we cannot write our code. So writing code is important to us and executing code is important to us. Both are required. That's the reason in the last session I discussed clearly. Without .NET Framework, there is no .NET. When we install .NET Framework along with Visual Studio, then you will get internally these two components. These components will work with framework only. Either it can be .NET Framework or it can be .NET Core Framework here. Okay, so it depends on selection here. So while creating application, you have to choose the .NET Framework or .NET Core platform. Both we can do that. So let me show you a quick example. And this is not required, but just I'm showing you. Let me go to Visual Studio here. Visual Studio 2022 is there with me. Just I'm going to show you simple differences. And from tomorrow onwards, we will enter into coding part, so that just I'm giving idea. So as soon as when we open Visual Studio here, there are left hand side so many applications I created for my previous batches, and you can click on that templates directly, it will open. And now I'm going to show you how to create a new project here. Okay, but tomorrow I'll give you basic introduction of C#.NET. After that, I will proceed through these steps only. Just I want to show you .NET Framework and .NET Core. Okay, so here you can see this. Whenever I create a new project, it will ask you to select a proper language. Which language onwards, which language do you want to develop your code? C#.NET is my language. And Windows platform, you can see all platforms: Android, Azure, iOS, Linux, Mac OS, TV OS, okay, the Xbox. So Windows is platform. And which type of application you are going to select, that you can select: console application, desktop application, games application, IoT, machine learning, mobile application, and other web applications are there. So I'm selecting initially console application. Now you can see this console application, a project for creating a command line application. Yes, console application means it will provide CUI facilities. CUI means command user interface or character user interface, that can run on .NET Core framework, which will be suitable to run your logic code on Windows operating system, Linux, and Mac OS and others. So this is platform independent. Do you want to make your .NET programs are platform independent? That means which can be able to run on any operating system. Go for this template, console app with .NET Core. Core framework it is. But here you can see there is one more template is there. Console app .NET framework here, a project for creating a command line application which will be run on exclusively Windows. That is your wish. But I'm saying that when it comes to C#.NET point of view, there is no much more differences. Coding wise, there is no difference. Only running wise, execution, where you want to execute. Do you want to execute on Mac OS or Linux or Windows and anywhere? Then you can go for this option. Or do you want to execute only Windows? Then you can go for this. But when it comes to ASP.NET, ASP.NET Core platform is different. ASP.NET Framework platform is different. There I'll show you clear differences, but mostly I'll discuss after completion of C#.NET with SQL Server, and I'll start with ASP.NET Core concept only. Okay, both ASP.NET with the .NET Framework I'll discuss, ASP.NET with Core Framework also I'll discuss. There I can show you a lot of differences with ADV.NET. So just I want to show you these two templates only here. Okay. So tomorrow we'll discuss what C#.NET basic introduction within 10-15 minutes. After that, we will enter into Visual Studio, how to create application, how to create classes, how to write programs, how to compile and execute. All the step by step we'll discuss in detail. So that's all about this is .NET introduction in the last session, and today what I discussed. And tomorrow we'll enter into programming part. Regarding this session, or entire the .NET basic subjects regarding that, if you have any question, now you can feel free to ask me. So type your question in chat box so that I'll read and I'll give you answer clearly. Any question? Please type in chat box. Question. Please type your question in chat box.
Hi, Rajat here. Able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Mr. Rajat. Tell me.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I have one doubt. Like, why .NET? Why .NET compile two times? Like, first you told like it will compile with intermediate language, then it compiled in JIT. So why two times it required to compilation?
That is the process, internal process. Why it is required? CLR is having its own compiler like JIT compiler. So just for cross verification of your compilation, respective language compiler will compile the code, and cross verification purpose, JIT compiler will play the role in under the CLR. And even Java also code will be compiled twice. JVM is also having JIT compiler, but people don't know whether JVM is having JIT compiler or not. But it will be compiled twice there also.
So nowadays, like apart from Git compiler, AOT compiler also there, no? So like .NET supported AOT compiler.
Compilers that is based on that other compilers. By default, actually, when we go for .NET framework with JIT compiler will be associated with CLR.
Okay, thank you.
And based on selection of your application type, compiler will take place, because every language is having its own respective compiler. No, so I have selected so many platforms, applications are there, and compiler also based on that it will be decided. CLR will take platform dependent as well as independent, because mono CLR is there, so that is platform independent. Only .NET framework CLR is there, so that is platform independent. It depends on selection of your type of template. So .NET Core means mono CLR will come into the picture, and .NET Framework means only normal CLR, which will be makes run your application on Windows.
So nowadays, like recently, .NET has released .NET version 6. So like they're planning to decrypt it, .NET 4.7. So why we are learning this like .NET frameworks? Why we are not learning .NET Core?
.NET Core only we are teaching, no? .NET Framework and
Okay.
.NET Core, that is compatibility, that is only. So see, .NET Framework means more compatible on Windows exclusively. It will be run our applications on Windows. But if you want to make your code in, if you want to run your code in any platform, then go for core concepts only. No problem. .NET Framework 4.8 they released it, not 4.7. We are Visual Studio 2022 is there, no, integrated with 4.8 framework.
Yeah, 4.72, then 4.8 they have released.
Yeah. That's only I have in my computer right now. Just I have to check in 4.8 what new things are there. Like that I have to explain you.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. ASP and ASP.NET Core. ASP.NET and ASP.NET Core. Just now I told you, when we go for ASP.NET with framework, that is platform dependent. .NET Core means we have separate pages are there, Rager pages. You can able to run on different platform with web API. All some different stuff is there in ASP.NET. We'll discuss in ASP.NET Core at the time of ASP.NET.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, OOPS concept, everything. C#.NET is completely object-oriented programming language. Without covering OOPS concept, then why we need to learn C#.NET? That is waste of time. So I'll cover from basics to high-level programming. Don't worry about that. Yeah, Mr. Hussain, our team will contact through mail. So please follow that steps for paying all these things. And session timing is same only. This session time, Indian time, 7 p.m. IST to 8 p.m. Yeah, multi-threading, file handling, collections, everything will cover in C# .NET point of view. Okay, yes. Yes, any question? Just this is completely introduction part only we finish, and tomorrow onwards actual no daily basic. These sessions are daily. Okay, Monday to Saturday.
Hello, sir.
Monday to Saturday classes. Only Sunday is the holiday, and daily I'll take the sessions.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, actually, I am new learner, sir. So, sir, you say installing Visual Studio software. How can I install, sir?
You can follow the steps. It's simple actually. Go to download. Go to Google and type Microsoft.com Visual Studio. Download Visual Studio 2022, and that will be simple process. If you are new to that, then I'll assist you. So after few days, okay, I will give
Yes.
you a presenter so that you can share your screen. I'll help you regarding that how to install step by step process. Don't worry that.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, this course is enough to become a .NET developer because in this C# .NET, SQL Server, all topics and ASP.NET core concepts with .NET framework will cover. And if you
Sir,
want to put
can you hear me?
experience, just wait, I'll give you answer. If you want to put experience, then I strongly recommend to learn ASP.NET MVC also.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you, Mister.
Sir, asking you to that I have a .NET 2013. Can you use it?
You can use it undoubtedly,
No problem,
but we
because
have
I saw
already.
you that using 2020 or 22.
Yeah, I'm using, but Visual Studio, it's not a problem. You can able to manage the things.
Mm. Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Difference between WPF means WPF is a Windows presentation foundation that is completely desktop geo applications. Console is nothing but it is a character user interface. You cannot prepare any forms and we cannot design any buttons, labels, text boxes, etc. in console application. It is command prompt application. WPF is completely desktop Windows Forms application, that is Windows Presentation Foundation. How we create Notepad, how we create calculator, Windows calculator, this type of applications we can develop using as well as WPF and Windows Forms. This is Window Form. Console application means character user interface. How we will see this command prompt like this. This is console application type only. Next. Yes. Sessions will continue from Monday to Saturday. Sunday is the holiday. And this week I will take all the C# .NET sessions only, but mostly next week, first 4 days, Monday to Thursday, C# .NET sessions I'll conduct, and every Friday, Saturday, SQL Server sessions. So parallelly C# with the SQL Server I'll continue. Once I finish this, we'll start with ASP.NET. ADO.NET will come in the middle while interacting with SQL Server.
Sir,
Tell me.
sir, hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Tell me.
Sir, unfortunate, I'm not understanding and few things. Then how can contact with you?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll send the daily basis recording videos and material through my mail, no? So I can contact through mail. Once you register with us, then I'll create WhatsApp group. You can keep in touch with WhatsApp group also. All students also, if they are interested, they'll join on that group. I'll be admin person. You can keep on contact anytime. Issues at all.
Sir, I also called for query customer numbers for DURGASOFT, but they're not receiving an I think response over my call. Then how can contact, because I have to join and paying money process. I want to know process how to pay money.
No problem, no problem. Our team will contact you, or else you can call to 9246212143. So
Just
they
wait.
will.
I want to note down the numbers. Please give once again.
I
Just
just
tell me.
post that 9246212143.
Okay. Okay, sir. I have.
And there
Okay,
is
sir.
no
Today,
last
no,
date for. Uh, there is no last date for fee payment. Okay, you can pay the fee by this weekend. So once you can
Okay.
register with us, then no problem. You will get a short link mostly by next weekend. This link will work only up to this Friday, and from Saturday onwards we will change the link, and registered candidates will get that link only.
No, asking, sir. I will. Can I call this number now or tomorrow? Have to call.
Now also you can call as your Vishnu Ishishaka.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you,
And
sir.
tomorrow also you can join this session on the same link only. It will work
Okay.
again 3 more days. No problem. We'll continue with this link only.
Okay, sir. I'm interested. Want to join.
Okay, no problem. So see you tomorrow. Have a nice time on the same link. At same time, we'll discuss more details regarding C#.NET and Visual Studio, how to create applications, how to start writing your code in .NET. We'll discuss.